Okay, brothers and sisters, this is Brother Lewis coming to you with a response to a request to review problems 7 and 8 of week 4 quiz access on chapter 2. So let's get at it. I've already got the problem 7 and 8 queued up. They're tied together, and I've got Excel off to the right. So we're going to pull some information together and see what we got to do. All right, so they're giving us some set of transactions, and they're asking us to record the transactions in balance column, mainly looks like focused on cash, right? So day and whether or not it goes up or down. Okay, so let's actually show you how these transactions happen in full, and then we'll just focus on the cash side of things. Okay, so way I like to do these journal entries typically come in as a you might have like a reference, right? And you'll have a date and usually a description of some sort, and then you'll have a debit and you'll have a credit column. Okay, and when we record these, you're going to want to make sure that the debit side matches the credit side so that you're fully balanced on both sides. Now, we really don't have a reference on this, but let's just call it item number 1. And this date is 8/1. And the description is, well, kind of Madison Harris, the owner, invested 9,250 cash and 39,775 of photography equipment in the company in exchange for common stock. So we know that equity is on the credit side, assets is on the debit side, right? So basic view of that. So we know that the owner is investing, so we're going to have some equity type of a transaction, and both in cash and in equipment. So let's just say, we're going to change the description to account, okay? And so what we're going to do here is we have a cash account that's getting added to, which is a debit. We have let's call it equipment photography account. We also know that we have a common stock account. Now, we don't know if this is just anything over par or whatnot, so we're just going to take it as is, just common stock. So we should have these 3 different accounts. Now, on the cash side, we're going to have 9,250. On the equipment, we're going to assume that this 39,775 is the actual value of the equipment. Okay. And so now on the common stock side, you're going to wonder, well, what should this be? Well, let's make these a little easier to read. So let's put a little thing there. So now to make sure everything balances, we're just going to make sure that we summarize these 2 values. Add them together. And you can do it as sum, or you can just add it together. So this is what the first transaction is going to look like. Okay. So the second one, let's call this number 2. And this is going to be 8/2. And this one is the company paid $2,600 in cash for an insurance policy covering the next 24 months. So effectively, this is a prepaid insurance because it hasn't actually been used yet. We haven't expended any time in this policy. They just paid for it. So cash is coming down, right? It's an expenditure. Cash is coming down, but your prepaid insurance policy is going up. Those are both asset accounts. So they're actually going to show up on the asset side of the equation only. Now, it would be easy to say, start off with cash and then the insurance policy, but we know that journal entries, we'd like to start with debits first and then do the credits. So we know that increasing in prepaid insurance policy is going to be, it's a normal debit balance. So we want to make sure that that's the first one. Okay, so prepaid insurance is our first item, and that's going to be $2,600. And then we're going to take it out of cash. So that's a decrease to cash. That's a credit for $2,600. Okay. On number 3, that's the 8/5 transaction. This one, the company purchased supplies for $8,758 in cash. So once again, cash is decreasing, but this time it's going to be an expense, right? So, well, you could argue and this is the trick. They usually, when they talk about supplies, they consider this as an asset. The good thing about this is that regardless of whether it's an asset or an expense, it's both still on the debit side. Okay, we're just lucky here. So we're just going to put supplies up here. That's going to be on the debit side. And then like we did with prepaid insurance, cash is on the credit because we're expending money. So 1758 debit to supplies and 1758 as a credit to cash. Okay. And then the fourth one is the 820 transaction, and it's saying that the company received $4,000 of cash from taking photos for customers. So I'm assuming that this is a service that was provided, and therefore it's revenue, and it was cash received the same time that they did it. So what we're going to end up doing is cash increase is a debit. So we're going to do the cash first. And then because it's a revenue, I'm assuming it's a revenue, I'm just going to call this, revenue. You could call it, service revenue. You can call it photography revenue, photo revenue. Doesn't matter. We'll just call it photo revenue. How about that? And so that is going to be $4,000 as a debit because it's increasing cash. And because it's increasing revenue, revenue being on the right side of the equation, an increase to equity, or let's say an increase in revenue increases equity, and therefore it's a credit normal balance. So we're going to put $4,000 here. And then lastly, number 5, which is on 831, we have the company paid $884 cash for August utilities. Okay, so $884 cash for utilities. Utilities are an expense, so we're going to do this. Utilities being an expense has a normal debit balance, so that's going to be the first one on top. So we're going to call this utilities expense, and we're going to take it out of cash. So that's 884, and this is going to be 884. Now we've got all these transactions, nice and neat right here. The cool thing we can do, let's just go ahead and make these all dates the same. Oops. 828, and this isn't normal. I'm just doing this for purposes of, I'm going to sort all these accounts and their debit and credit balances. And that's going to give us kind of a feel for what it looks like as a T account. Okay. So if I sort all these by their, account balance, this is data, sort A to Z, bam, we have basically a trial balance for cash right there. Or not a trial balance, we have a T account for cash right there. So now when we come down here, we can do exactly what this is doing right here. We can do date, right? We can do an August 1st date for 9250. We can do a once again, oh, my bad. Let's go back here. Let's undo that. And let's do this whole thing. We'll just ignore these for now. And let's sort it. My data does not have headers. We're going to sort it by column C, A to Z. Okay, now we should get the right numbers. Okay, now we have the dates in the right place, and we have the debits and credits. So now we can go August 2nd is going to have a credit of 2,600. August 5th is going to have a credit of 1758. August 20th is going to have a debit balance of 4,000. And August 31st is going to have a credit of 884. Now, we should be able to check our work on this and see if I got it right. Voila. Okay, so now we have the first part right. All's good, right? Now we can go to number 8. Now, number 8 has the same transactions, right? All the same transactions. Now it's asking us analyze each transaction above by showing its effects on the accounting equation, right? Now, the nice thing is we already got that information from here. Now, let's just go backwards, Control Z, and we can get all these transactions back where they were, and we can see, you know, what they did for each component. Now, this is going to be a trick. Let's see if we can make this smaller. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Yeah, I want to make this smaller so I can still see it, but I want to see all the other stuff too, so I can play with this just a little bit more. Okay, that should be good enough. Now, on the asset side, let's see. Identify the accounts and amounts plus or minus for each transaction using the following partial chart of accounts: cash, supplied, prepaid. Oh, brilliant. Okay, so on the asset side, oh, okay, so we've got these right here, right? These two. So it should be cash, and it should be equipment, some sort of equipment photography. Okay, so equipment, and this is going to be a debit and a credit, I think, on these sides. So we're going to put in, oh, this is an increase or decrease. So it increased the amount, and it was for, I'm guessing this is the amount. Yep, 92,250, and this should be for 39,775. Okay, brilliant. And we should also have on the equity side, if we scroll all the way over, we have equity, and we should be able to do here common stock, and it should be an increase, and it should be for 49,025. Okay, so that's that one. Now, if we go to the August 2nd transaction, we have two things here. Ooh, I hope I'm doing this right. We'll see. Okay, so it's got two things here. I'm not sure why it's got two. Maybe it's only supposed to have one. I don't know, because I got two here, but I don't know why they just wouldn't have it on one line, but we'll give it a shot. So on this one, we're going to do prepaid insurance as an increase. Okay, so that's an asset. So prepaid insurance is going to be an increase, and it's going to be for 2,600. Now the interesting thing, oh, that's why they have two here. On the asset side, we also have a cash. It's going to be a decrease for the same amount, 2,600, right? That's why they had two on for the second. On the fifth, they got two on the same thing as well. So we're going to assume that supplies is an asset because that's what they show all the time. So let's start with an asset, the sale, the supplies. There it is, supplies. It's going to be an increase in supplies for 1,758. And we're going to have a decrease in cash. Decrease in cash for 1,758. Okay. And then on the 20th, yeah, see, now they have one line for this because it crosses two different sides of the equation. So on cash, we're going to increase it. Increase for 4,000. And it's going to come all the way over here to the equity side is my guess. I don't think they're going to have equity broken out by revenue or whatnot. So on this line, we're going to end up having, I think we're going to end up having revenue. So services revenue, there we go. Now it's going to increase it by the 4,000. All right. And then lastly, we have August 31st, which is utilities expense. Now utilities expense is on the equity side because it reduces equity, and cash is on the asset side, and this is going to be a decrease. So let's start off with cash since we're already here. Cash is going to be decreased by 884, and equity, and this is going to be utilities expense. Utilities expense is going to be actually increased on this one. Is that right? No, because we're on the equity side. So we have to flow this through to what it means to equity, not what it means to utilities expense, because utilities expense goes up, but equity comes down. Yeah. So this is going to be a decrease, and it's going to be for the 884. Okay. Now, I think I got everything there. There was no liabilities. We didn't see any liability items, so I think it's kind of a trick. They have it in there because they just say cash, supplies, prepaid, insurance, equipment, common stock, services. Yeah, there are no liabilities in all these transactions. So let's check our work. And answer is complete. We got it all right. Okay, so that's how you do 7 and 8. Hope that helps.